Well, so it's probably the most talked about issue the whole of the day. A group of eco-conscious citizens are wading in, asking the Forestry Commission to enforce Ghana's laws on wildlife conservation. The calls actually come in the wake of an official announcement by the Ghana Police Service that it is working together with the Forestry Commission to relocate 2 tigers being kept at a residential facility here in Accra. Obviously, what we know is that residents at Wonder World Estates near the British High Commission at Region Accra have expressed worry over the presence of the carnivores in the estates believed to be owned by business mogul Nana Kwame Bediako, popularly known as Freedom Jacob Caesar. Well, the man at the center of the controversy himself says he was just keeping the animals for recreational purposes.
I read the story, I didn't finish it. Because when you're reading something about yourself that you kind of see too many paragraphs in lies, it's difficult for you to finish it. But from what I've seen and heard, I don't think I am putting anyone in danger. Because the necessary procedures to protect the animals has been done. The necessary procedures to be able to build a future for the animals is in process with the commissions. So I don't know if somebody is saying this has happened or that has happened, and these animals has not harmed anyone. They have not been out there on the streets. They've been fed and taken care of. And they're still cubs. They're yet to grow. They haven't even turned to a year. They're still in their 6th, 7th month. So that's all it is, really. But we all know that these are not things that you can just go to the market and buy them and, come and put them in your house. So I definitely had to go through the procedure. The procedures are done. The protection is well mounted. And the safety of the public, it's very much considered. And so at my own time, I would like to probably even show how we went through the process of creating this protection and making sure that the animals were fed, trained, and done many things. And then we take it from there. Thank you.
Well, so that's the account of the owner. While giving the terms of the country's wildlife regulations, any person who fails to obtain a license before keeping these wild animals shall, on conviction, be liable to a fine of not exceeding 10,000 Ghana cedis, or a jail term of not exceeding 12 months as well. But you have a full detail on your screens right now indicating what it is that's involved. So here's the LI 1452 talking about wildlife conservation, and it indicates that no person, first of all, section 6B indicates that no person shall keep a wild animal as a pet unless he is the holder of a license issued by the Chief Game and Wildlife Officer or his representative for that purpose. Now, application for licenses to keep a wild animal as a pet shall be made in writing to the Chief Game or Wild Officer or his representative in the area of residence of the applicant, accompanied by such fees as may be determined by the Chief Game and Wildlife Officer. Then we know that the Chief Game and Wildlife Officer may, in granting a license under this section, stipulate the conditions under which the wild animals shall be kept. And then we also know that a license granted under this section for the stated reason shall be withdrawn and the pet confiscated to the state. Then there's also a part talking about fees being collected, but the last leg of the point talks about that the fact that any person who contravenes any of the provisions or regulations 6A or 6B commits an offense and shall be liable to a fine of not exceeding 10,000 Ghana cedis or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 12 months or both. So these are the clear terms that we have within the wildlife regulations. Meanwhile, the eco-conscious citizens are already wading into the matter, asking the Forestry Commission to enforce the laws. Joining us now is the co-coordinator for the eco-conscious citizens, Awula Sewa. Thank you so much for your time. So, as eco-conscious citizens, what do you make of, first of all, the justification by the owner that he was simply keeping these animals for recreational purposes?
Well, I mean, the main issue here are whether the laws were contravened or not, because it's about safety. It's about safety of residents and safety. So if he has a license and he has kept all the conditions that went with the license, that is one thing. But hearing the allegations First of all, there's the notion of nuisance. Apparently, there's a stench, and also there is noise. In addition, there are allegations that two residents were attacked by the cubs. One said she had her feet scratched. The other one said he had to run for dear life. These are allegations which need to be investigated. We are quite clear that the owner does not have financial issues, so he can ensure that everything is done to keep the pets, if you want to call them that, in accordance with the conditions that go with the license. So that is what we are concerned about, the issue of nuisance and safety, because safety is paramount.
But I guess the concern is, really, is it a bad idea to keep these cats as pets, as we are learning of?
Well, I mean, it might not be something that I would do. And if you look at it, I think even in the US, there are so many areas where you cannot keep tigers as pets. But having said that, it's about the laws of the land. If indeed the laws of the land allow anybody who wants to keep tigers as pets to do so, it's a question of whether the laws have been contravened or not, because conditions were set. And I'm sure that nuisance needs to be abated. So it's a question of, is there a stench or is there not a stench? If there's a stench, then I don't think the conditions are being kept. But paramount, as I've said, it's safety. So whether it's a good idea or not a good idea, are residents in danger? That is what we need to look at.
We'll be looking at the law shortly and what your take is on the matters. But talking from the perspective of being an eco-conscious group, help us understand the issue about tigers and lions. Are they really an extinct species, or it's just the case that probably it's not safe keeping them?
Well, I'm not quite sure they're endangered species, but for me, the concern whether or not they are endangered is if this is the best place to keep them. But more importantly, what do the regulations say? Because as eco-conscious citizens, we are about a clean, green, and healthy environment. So is the environment healthy if there are wild animals that people say are causing a threat to them? It will not be a safe environment. And also, we are about noise. According to the residents, the so-called pets make a lot of noise, which is causing a nuisance. As you know, we all have the right to peace and quiet in the comfort of our homes, and nobody's activities should interfere with that right. Your home is the only place where you can have a bit of peace and quiet, and you are king in your home. You shouldn't have noise or nuisance from anybody interfering with that right of yours to peace and quiet. So that is our concern.
But at least now we're learning that, for instance, keeping these carnivores is a luxurious lifestyle. Is that not what we're simply witnessing here?
It's not a question of a luxurious lifestyle. I mean, you can have any lifestyle you like, so long as it doesn't affect somebody else. Because as you know, your freedoms end where somebody else's begins. So if the law allows you to keep snakes, scorpions, whatever, that's what the law allows you to do. But the law does not allow you to cause a nuisance to your neighbors. Therefore, whatever you do, it should be done in such a way that your neighbor is kept safe and your neighbor is not inflicted by any noise or anything that disturbs him in his own home. And also, as I keep on saying, there was supposed to be stench. If you're in your home, you want to have a pleasant environment, and an environment that has a foul smell is not what one would call a pleasant environment.
Well, the law enforcement agencies are already coming into this. We're hearing from the Ghana Police Service, for instance, which says that it is carrying out a relocation exercise together with the Forestry Commission. Is that the best option and the best way out in this case?
I mean, first of all, I have to say that according to the residents, they made a number of complaints and they didn't get anywhere with the complaints. It was only after the media, and we need to thank the media. It was only after the media highlighted the issue that something was done, and that is not right. If complaints are made, they need to be investigated and action taken. The authorities need not wait for the media to highlight it. But having said it, Having said this, if the authorities are now doing what they should be doing to keep residents safe, it can only be a good thing. They are the experts, and they should know what to do. So it's up to the authorities to do what is best in this particular case. Enforcement is enforcement is something that's really, really important. All rules and regulations should be enforced. And if I might digress a bit,
right.
We know that in Ghana, enforcement has never been our strongest point. We have all the beautiful laws, but unfortunately, monitoring and enforcement is not something we're very good at. We talk about building. The regulations are very clear that you cannot build on every inch of your land. Space needs to be kept for drainage, greenery, and so on and so forth. But we find out that in certain areas, people have built on almost every inch of the land, and the authorities stand idly by. They don't enforce the regulations. So that is one of the problems we have, enforcement.
Awula, what would you say to someone who walks up to you and say, well, these are just animals. Why are we making a big deal out of this situation?
Well, I'll say they're just animals. You can go and join them and see whether we're making a big deal or not. We know that these are undomesticated animals. Even in the case of domesticated animals, we read of cases where dogs, which are being kept as family pets, have actually attacked the children, in some cases killed babies and children. And these were family pets. They can be unpredictable. So if even family pets can sometimes harm their owners and their families, how much more undomesticated wild animals? So anybody who thinks we're making a big fuss, well, they're entitled to their opinion, but they can come and live there with the pets. But I think that all we need to do is ensure that the laws are being kept, and there's no unsafety to the residents. There's no stench and no noise. If there had been none of these issues, I don't think that we'd be having this conversation.
Awula, I'm not sure I'm trying that anytime soon, but thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. That's Awula, our co-coordinator for the group calling itself Ecoconscious Citizens. Well, one man who's been close to the action is also joining us, Justicebaidu. He's been monitoring the event ever since it broke, the news broke. But Justice, you've been there today as well. Bring us up to speed with what transpired today.
So today, the new development, which has been there since morning, is basically the police presence, which largely has been triggered by the resident in the estate, who is the person who leaked this information to the media from yesterday. And it is her complaint that drew the police attention to
all of this.
And then it is that, attention that the police then had that also did indicate through the press statement that they released yesterday that they were working with the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission to ensure that these animals were removed today. And so we understood that the Forestry Commission were working with the police to have these animals removed today, which we expected to have happened by now. Right. We have been at the property since morning, and we haven't seen that happen. And as I speak to you, these animals are still in this property, and nothing has changed.
So the relocation hasn't happened?
Hasn't happened yet. We don't yet have any information from the Wildlife Division, even though they did indicate to us this morning that they were working towards having them removed this morning. That hasn't happened yet. What has happened that I know is that the police is heavily present there and are making sure that the people who are in there are safe, and that the animals are also within a place where they are unable to harm the people who are there.
And Justice, what's interesting about the story is also the issue about the courage. The courage on the part of the whistleblower to just walk out of this very property that's being rented to you by the same man you're reporting, and go ahead and tell the police that, well, he's keeping some tigers in his residence. How is she feeling now, and what's her status as we speak?
Yeah, so this person is someone who, as I understand, has been confronting the owner of this property, basically to speak about the danger that she feels for her life and for her family living in this property. There's a gated neighborhood where, if a tiger skipped your wall, he could hurt anybody in close range. And so this whistleblower has constantly complained to the facility managers, to the property owners, and according to her, it has almost turned violent in the past in instances where she has had to express fear for her life. And so 3 days ago, this news came down to people, to journalists, and it got published some way, somehow. And that then drew a lot of attention from the property and facility owners. And so because they know that she is the person who has raised issues with it, because the interesting thing is that the tigers are just by her property. So
she's the closest.
So if
anything should happen, she'll be the first to be on the receiving side.
And the interesting thing also is that these tigers are far away from the property of the owner of the tigers. So the guy who owns the property, who has brought in these tigers, is not keeping them by his house. He's keeping them by the house of
someone else.
And what this lady is saying is, why would you not keep them in your property if they were safe? Why are you keeping them close to mine? And I tell you that I'm unsafe. I don't feel safe having them around my property. So this lady went up to the police yesterday, lodged a complaint with the police, and said that, hey, you guys need to come in, help me deal with this. And the police sent men with her, went to the property, tried to see what was happening. First police contingent that came with her were not allowed entry into the property, and she had to call in a lawyer. A lawyer then moved the case up higher, and they had to go to the point of going to the police headquarters, where a higher level, police engagement contingent were detailed to come, and then it was only at that point, as I understand, very late yesterday, that
we
this
had
lady was given access to a property that she herself has paid for.
And I think, Justice, it's at this point that we need to bring back that video, because for the very first time, we're now coming up close with these carnivores. And just describe the situation to us, for those who've not been to the vicinity. What you have here is the residence within which these cats are being kept.
So this is an estate apartment, it's an estate environment, that whole enclave. And for people who know Accra, this is the Ring Road estate area right behind the British High Commission. And so within that area, you have, like, I could count not less than 5 different estates of the same make, walled. But once you come in, you could move from one property to the other. You could even see your neighbor through your window. And so these animals are in one part, and my understanding is that they have a whole property to themselves, and this is the frontage of that property. And they are, housed in this cage. And as we understood from this video that was shared yesterday, they have this trainer who says that these animals cannot harm. They are very sociable animals.
That's the description he is giving
in his words. And so this is what it is. And the interesting thing also is that there are many people who live around who say that until this morning, when news broke on radio and also online,
they didn't know
that these tigers were there. And news of these tigers have sent a lot of fears around, and many of them are really, really feeling unsafe, according to interviews that I had with them.
Justice, I'm grateful that you've been able to bring us up to speed with what's happening there. In fact, we'll keep an eye on the vicinity and also see what it is that the Ghana Police Service will be doing. Let's